Alright, this is 3b, which in this case is solving quadratics by the square root method. So sometimes, this is a special case, sometimes we can solve this way. So now I'm going to draw our attention to what is the biggest difference between these two problems, these two equations. Well, the first equation has only one x in the problem, in the equation. And over on the right side there are two x's in the equation. That is the biggest thing that we need to see. When you only have one, you can solve using this special case. When there are more than one, then you have to use it by a different method, solve by a different method, whether it's factoring or the quadratic formula. But today we are going to concentrate on when there is one x in the problem, or one variable. So like number one. So we're gonna solve undistribute if there is a GCF when in standard form. So number one, is there a greatest common factor? No. So then, is there only one term with a variable? Yes, only one. Perfect. So that's step two. Step three is solve for the variable by reverse order of operations for the equation. So from the m, what are my operations? If you start with the m, I have a square first, and then I subtract 16. I need to do the reverse order of that in the reverse order, reverse steps. So opposite of subtract 16 is add 16. And then now this is what's going to be new. M squared means there's two solutions. To get the two solutions, you need a plus and a minus anytime you square root with a positive and negative. So a positive and negative 4. So a 4 is the solution and negative 4 is the solution. You can write it that way or like this. Number two. So I'm going to first get it into standard form. So I'm going to subtract 125. And then I'm going to see, is there a greatest common factor? Is there a GCF? Yeah, there is. We can divide them by 5. Divide both terms by 5. And the 5 does not have a variable with it, so there will be no solutions found with that. You have 9n squared. This is where both of our solutions are going to be found with this in the equation, the factor 9n squared minus 25. So I'm going to rewrite 9n squared minus 25. We're going to set that equal to 0, so that's one of our factors. And then both of our solutions will be found there. So now I can add 25. Because I glossed over it again, but we only have the n is the only, so this is the only n in the problem, so we can solve for it. The order of operations, before I should have done that, from the n, so from the n, it would be square first, and then it would be, so you'd square the n, then multiply by 9, and then subtract 25. I need to do the reverse order of that to get the n by itself. So add 25, that's the opposite of subtract 25. Opposite of multiply by 9 is divide by 9. 25 doesn't divide by 9 nicely, so we're going to leave it in proper fraction. Opposite of square is square root. Now when you're square rooting, again, don't forget about the plus minus, but when we're square rooting, you're actually square rooting the numerator and square rooting the denominator. So it happens that both the square root of 25 and the square root of 9 are integers. So it just becomes 5/3. So you have a positive 5/3 and a negative 5/3. You could write it like that, or you could separate it out if you want. All right, and let's talk about number 4. So number 4, can't get it in standard form. There's nothing there, but we do see, because we have this exponent, it would be really hard to get it in standard form. But I do see there's only one x in the problem, so I can solve for this. So I need to think about my steps from the x. First thing that would happen to the x is multiply by 3/4. Then it'd be to add 5. After you do inside the parentheses, next thing the order of operations would be to square it. And lastly, it would be to multiply by 1/3. So we need to do the reverse order of this. So the opposite of multiply by 1/3 is divide by 1/3, but it's a fraction, so we're going to multiply by the reciprocal instead. And 3/1 is the same thing as 3. 3 times 1 and 1 times 3, those are 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so it'll cancel out. We then have 3/4 x plus 5 squared equals 9. So multiply by 1/3 is gone. Now what's the opposite of square is square root. And when you square root, you have a positive and a negative. So 3/4 x plus 5 equals, square root of 9 is 3. Well, at this point now, this becomes very different. We have two different possible solutions. Of 3/4 x plus 5 is going to equal a positive 3 and a negative 3. So now what we have to do is we have to rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite this as two different equations because of the positive and negative 3. So we have 3/4 x plus 5 equals 3. And we have 3/4 x plus 5 equals negative 3. Because we have a positive and a negative. We can't keep them together because once we start solving, we're going to get totally different answers. So to solve this now, I'm going to subtract 5. Multiply by the reciprocal of 4/3. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 1 times x is x. And multiplying by numerators, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Multiply the denominators, 1 times 3 is 3. Negative 8/3 is one of our answers. Our other one lies in this other equation, 3/4 x. Sorry for all the noise during lunch right now. Multiply by the reciprocal, 4/3. Represent all as fractions. We get x equals negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. 1 times 3 is 3. Negative 32/3. So there are both of our solutions.